Clean that up, and if I see one more stain, you're out on the street tomorrow," Robert snarled, deliberately spilling his drink onto the spotless white floor. Claire nodded silently, kneeling down to clean it. Robert laughed with his gala guests. He had no idea that hidden in Claire's palm was a small red USB flash drive, one containing the encrypted files from his personal laptop, detailing the crimes that would put him behind bars for the rest of his life. His party was about to end, but before we see how Claire destroys his empire, let me know where you're watching from and what time it is. Now subscribe to the channel, and let's get into the full story. You call this coffee? It's 163 degrees. I asked for 165 degrees exactly. Are you trying to make me look stupid in front of the board members today? Robert Johnson slammed the coffee mug on Claire Williams' desk, causing hot liquid to splash on her carefully organized papers. Claire Williams looked up at her boss, the powerful CEO of Atlantic Investments. "I'm sorry, Mr. Johnson. I'll make you a new cup right away." "You're completely worthless," Robert said loudly, straightening the cuffs of his $5,000 suit. "My 10-year-old nephew could do your job better." It was 6:45 in the morning at the Atlantic Investments offices on the 47th floor of one of Manhattan's tallest skyscrapers. Claire had already been at her desk since 6:30, preparing everything for Robert's arrival. Claire stood up quickly, grabbing the mug and hurrying to the small kitchen area. She carefully measured the temperature with the special thermometer she kept just for Robert's coffee. 165 degrees exactly, not 1 degree more or less. Through the glass walls, Claire could see other early employees arriving, their eyes avoiding hers in sympathy. For 5 years she had endured Robert's daily abuse, but she needed this job desperately. Her mother's heart condition required expensive treatments, and Claire's salary covered both their apartments and the medical bills. When she returned with the perfect coffee, Robert was scrolling through his phone. He didn't look up or say thank you. "The board meeting starts in 30 minutes, Claire said. "I've prepared all the financial reports and placed them in the conference room." The presentation is loaded on the main screen. Robert finally looked up. "Did you use the new font I told you about yesterday? Because if you use the old one again, I swear I used the new font, Mr. Johnson, exactly as you requested." 2 hours later, Claire sat taking notes during the morning staff meeting. 12 executives sat around the large glass table as Robert discussed quarterly earnings. "As you can see on page 4, Robert said, pointing to the screen, "our growth exceeded expectations by 17%. Claire felt a moment of satisfaction. She had stayed until 9 o'clock last night finalizing these reports. "Wait," Robert said, his voice suddenly sharp. "What is this formatting error on row 27? The numbers are misaligned." He turned to Claire with cold eyes. "Did you not check this before printing? Are you trying to embarrass me in front of my own executive team?" All 12 executives turned to look at Claire. Her cheeks burned with humiliation. "I apologize, Mr. Johnson. I must have missed. You always miss something, don't you?" Robert interrupted. "Maybe you should find a job better suited to your limited abilities. Perhaps cleaning toilets?" A few executives looked down uncomfortably. Others smirked. Back at her desk after the meeting, Claire's phone rang. She checked to make sure Robert was in his office before answering. "Hello, this is Claire Williams." "Ms. Williams, this is Dr. Peterson from Queens Memorial Hospital. I'm calling about your mother." Claire's hand tightened around the phone. "Is she okay?" "She's stable, but we need to discuss scheduling her next treatment. The medication costs have increased again." "Did you receive our email about the new payment plan?" "Yes, I did. I'll make the payment this Friday after I get paid." "Very good. We'll schedule her treatment for next Monday then." After hanging up, Claire quickly opened her banking app. She had $43 until payday, enough for subway fare and a few simple meals. Her rent was due next week, and now her mother's treatment costs had increased again. Her thoughts were interrupted when Robert's voice boomed from his office. "Claire, get in here." She grabbed her notebook and hurried in. "I need you to redo the Henderson presentation. he said without looking up. All of it. Claire blinked in confusion. But I finished it yesterday. You approved it. Well, I've changed my mind. I want a completely different approach, and I need it by 3 o'clock. But sir, I have lunch plans with… Cancel them, he said dismissively. Your personal life isn't my concern. As Claire turned to leave, she saw a young woman hovering near her desk. It was Amy, the new marketing assistant who had started just 2 weeks ago. Hi, Claire, Amy whispered. Do you have a minute? I need some advice. Claire glanced at Robert's office. He was on a phone call now. Quick, what's up? Mr. Johnson rejected my entire market analysis and called me incompetent in front of everyone. I worked on it for 2 weeks. I don't understand what I did wrong. Claire sighed. It probably wasn't wrong. Sometimes he just likes to show his power. Here's what you should do. Later that afternoon, Claire sat in Robert's office as he made a call to an important client. She watched as he realized he had quoted the wrong figures. There seems to be a misunderstanding, Robert said smoothly into the phone. My assistant Claire provided me with incorrect numbers. I apologize for her mistake. Claire stared at her notebook, her face burning. She had given him the correct numbers. She had double-checked them herself. By 7:30 that evening, the office was nearly empty. Most employees had gone home to their families or out for dinner with friends. Claire remained at her desk, finishing the Henderson presentation that had forced her to cancel her lunch with her only friend in New York. Claire, Robert called from his office. Before you go, I need you to find the Mitchell acquisition file. I can't locate it on the server. Yes, Mr. Johnson. Where should I look? Check my private folders. The password for today is Winner 2023. Don't mess anything up in there. Claire entered Robert's immaculate office after he left for his dinner reservation. She sat at his large desk and logged into his private server using the password. As she searched for the Mitchell file, she accidentally clicked on a folder labeled Cayman Special Accounts. A series of spreadsheets opened before her. Claire was about to close them when she noticed something strange. Client names she recognized paired with account numbers she didn't. One spreadsheet showed money movements between numbered accounts. Another showed 2 different balance sheets for the same investment fund. Claire's heart began to race. After 5 years in financial services, she recognized what she was seeing: evidence of money laundering and fraud. She quickly looked toward the elevator bank through the glass walls. Empty. With shaking hands, she reached into her purse and pulled out a red USB drive she used for work emergencies. She plugged it in and began copying the files. As each file transferred, Claire's mind raced. Robert Johnson, celebrated Wall Street genius, feared boss, and apparently criminal. The man who humiliated her daily was stealing millions from clients. The file transfer completed. Claire carefully closed all the folders and returned everything to exactly how she had found it. She searched for and found the Mitchell acquisition file, placing it on Robert's desk where he would see it tomorrow. As she unplugged the red USB drive, she heard the elevator ding. Someone was coming. Claire quickly dropped the drive into her purse, logged out of Robert's computer, and stood up. She caught her reflection in the darkened office window, pale face, tired eyes, and now keeper of a dangerous secret. What she now possessed could destroy Robert Johnson's empire, or if he discovered what she knew, it could cost her everything. The elevator doors opened. And Claire quickly stepped away from Robert's desk. Her heartbeat pounded in her ears as she clutched her purse containing the red USB drive. David Chen, the new IT director, walked into the office area. "Oh, hi there. You're still here?" he asked, looking surprised to see anyone at this late hour. Claire forced a smile. "Just finishing some work Mr. Johnson needed." The Mitchell file. She pointed to the folder she had placed on Robert's desk. "I'm just setting up my security access," David explained. "First week on the job and all that." "Of course. Well, good night," Claire said. grabbing her coat and walking toward the elevator with measured steps, fighting the urge to run. The next morning, Claire arrived at work at 6:30, just like every day. But today was different. The red USB drive felt like it weighed 100 pounds in her purse. She jumped when her phone buzzed, a text from her mother about an upcoming doctor's appointment. As she prepared Robert's coffee, 165 degrees exactly, her hand trembled, spilling a few drops on the counter. The elevator dinged, and Robert strode in at 7:15, his expensive shoes clicking against the marble floor. He took the coffee cup without a word and walked into his office. Claire followed with his daily schedule. "The Wilson Group called to confirm their 2 o'clock meeting," she said, her voice higher than normal. Robert looked up slowly from his computer screen. His eyes narrowed as he studied her face. "You look terrible. Are you sick?" "No, sir, just a little tired." "Well, drink some coffee yourself. I need you alert today." He continued staring at her. "Is something wrong? You seem off." Claire's stomach tightened. "Everything's fine, Mr. Johnson." Throughout the morning, Claire felt Robert watching her more closely than usual. When she delivered reports to his desk, he asked, "Did you organize these the way I showed you last month?" "Yes, sir. Exactly as you showed me." Later, as she stood by the printer collecting documents, Robert appeared suddenly behind her. "Did you send the Henderson files to legal?" he asked. Claire dropped her coffee mug, which shattered on the floor. "I'm so sorry. Yes, I sent them yesterday afternoon." She knelt to pick up the pieces, her hands shaking. Robert's eyes followed her movements. "You're acting strange today, Claire." "Very strange." That evening, alone in her small apartment in Queens, Claire finally opened her laptop and inserted the red USB drive. She had stopped at a pharmacy to buy antacid tablets on the way home, her stomach burning with anxiety. The files opened on her screen. She spent hours examining spreadsheets, documents, and emails. What she found shocked her even more than her initial discovery. Robert had created fake investment accounts. He had committed tax fraud. He had stolen millions from client funds. The evidence was clear and extensive. Claire opened her internet browser and typed, "Financial fraud penalties." The results made her blood run cold. Robert could face decades in prison. Then she searched, "Whistleblower protections in financial industry." The next morning, Claire created a new folder system on her personal laptop with password protection. She organized the evidence by type of fraud and date. For the next 3 weeks, Claire maintained her normal routine at work while gathering more evidence. She stayed late whenever Robert left the office, carefully accessing additional files and copying them to her USB drive, which she now wore on a thin chain hidden under her blouse. One Tuesday morning in April, Robert called an all-staff meeting. 40 employees gathered in the large conference room. Atlantic Investments will host the annual Business Excellence Gala at the Grand Hyatt, New York, next month, Robert announced proudly. "I will receive the Businessman of the Year award from the New York Business Association." Employees applauded. Robert raised his hand for silence. "This is the most important event of my career. The mayor will attend, along with the city's business elite." He turned to Claire. "Claire will organize everything. The success of this event is entirely her responsibility." Claire nodded, feeling all eyes on her. After the meeting, Robert called Claire into his office. "You have 6 weeks to plan this gala. 300 guests, perfect food, perfect decorations, perfect speeches." His eyes narrowed. "Don't embarrass me like you usually do. If anything goes wrong, you're fired. Understand?" "Yes, Mr. Johnson." The pressure of planning the gala while continuing her secret evidence gathering became overwhelming. 2 weeks later, during her lunch break, Claire locked herself in a bathroom stall and struggled to breathe. Her heart raced, her hands tingled, and sweat beaded on her forehead. "Are you okay in there?" asked a voice from outside the stall. Claire wiped her face with a paper towel. "Yes, just feeling a little sick." That night at home, Claire made a list. Tell the truth. Stop Robert's crimes, protect clients, do the right thing. Keep quiet, keep my job, pay Mom's medical bills, avoid Robert's anger. She called her mother. "Hi, sweetheart," her mother answered. "How was your day?" Claire wanted to tell her everything but couldn't risk worrying her. "Busy. Planning a big event at work. You sound stressed. Is everything okay?" "Just tired, Mom. How are you feeling?" "Better after the new medication. Don't worry about me." After they hung up, Claire stared at the red USB drive on her kitchen table. That night, she dreamed she was in handcuffs, being led away by police while Robert watched, laughing. The gala planning consumed Claire's days. She coordinated with vendors, sent invitations, and managed every detail while still handling her regular duties. One evening, 3 weeks before the gala, Claire stayed late to copy new files showing Robert's plans to announce a new investment fund, likely another vehicle for fraud. As she sat at Robert's computer, the elevator dinged. Claire quickly closed the files and opened an email about floral arrangements for the gala. Robert walked in, looking surprised to see her. "What are you doing in my office?" he demanded. "Finalizing the seating chart for the gala," Claire said, pointing to papers spread across his desk. "I needed to check which clients you wanted at your table." Robert stared at her for a long moment. "You've been working late a lot recently." "The gala requires extra hours," Claire explained, her heart pounding. "Make sure you put the Henderson group at my table. And check with my wife's assistant about her dress color for the centerpieces." He paused. "Have you heard any strange rumors lately?" "About Atlantic?" "Rumors? No, sir. Someone accessed some secure files last week. IT is investigating." His eyes never left her face. "I hope they find who did it," Claire said, gathering her papers. "Good night, Mr. Johnson." At home that night, Claire sat at her kitchen table staring at the red USB drive. She had enough evidence now, but what should she do with it? If she went to the authorities, Robert would know it was her. If she did nothing, the crimes would continue. With trembling hands, Claire opened her laptop and typed into a search engine, "How to contact a financial crimes journalist anonymously." The search results loaded, offering her a way forward, and possibly a way out. Claire scrolled through the search results on her laptop screen. After reading several articles, one name kept appearing: Michael Torres, an investigative journalist at the New York Times who specialized in financial crimes. His articles had exposed 3 major Wall Street frauds in the past 5 years. The next morning, Claire left her apartment an hour early and took the subway to the Brooklyn Public Library. She chose a computer in the back corner, away from security cameras, and created a new email account. Her fingers hovered over the keyboard before she began typing. "Mr. Torres, I have evidence of significant financial fraud at a major Manhattan investment firm. The CEO has created fake accounts, committed tax fraud, and stolen millions from clients. I need to remain anonymous for my safety. If you're interested, I can provide proof. A concerned employee." Claire pressed send, then deleted the browser history. As she walked to the subway, her phone buzzed with a calendar alert. Gala planning meeting, 9:30. Throughout the day, Claire checked her new email account on her phone whenever she could slip away to the bathroom. At 2:15 in the afternoon, a response appeared. "I receive many tips about alleged financial wrongdoing. Most lack evidence or context. If you have actual proof of criminal activity, I need more specific details before committing my time." "What firm? What kind of evidence? Why are you coming forward now?" "Michael Torres." Claire waited until that evening to reply, "The firm is Atlantic Investments. I have spreadsheets showing money movements through Cayman Island accounts, double bookkeeping, and evidence of client fund theft. I'm coming forward because the fraud is growing larger. The CEO is about to announce a new investment fund that will likely defraud more people. I can meet you in person with samples of evidence." The next morning, Torres responded, "Coffee shop at the corner of Atlantic Avenue and Bond Street in Brooklyn. Thursday at 7 p.m. Bring sample evidence. I'll be wearing a blue jacket and reading the Times." On Thursday evening, Claire left work early, telling Robert she needed to meet with the gala caterer. She took 3 different subway lines to reach Brooklyn, constantly checking to make sure she wasn't followed. She wore sunglasses and a hat she had never worn to work. The coffee shop was small and half empty. Claire spotted Michael Torres immediately, a man in his late 30s with dark-rimmed glasses and a serious expression, blue jacket on the back of his chair, newspaper open on the table. She approached slowly. "Mr. Torres?" He looked up. "Have a seat." His voice was quiet but direct. "You understand I need to verify your identity." Claire slid into the chair across from him. "I can't tell you my full name yet. I could lose everything if he finds out I'm talking to you." He being Robert Johnson, CEO of Atlantic Investments. Michael's eyebrows raised slightly. "Robert Johnson is receiving the Businessman of the Year award next month." "Yes, and he's also stealing millions of dollars." Claire's voice shook slightly. She opened her purse and removed a folder. "These are copies of some documents I've found. They show transfers to shell companies in the Cayman Islands." Michael took the folder but didn't open it. "Why should I believe you? You could be a disgruntled employee trying to damage his reputation." "I'm his executive assistant. I've worked for him for 5 years. I accidentally discovered these files while searching for something else." Claire pushed the folder closer to him. "Look at them yourself. The evidence is clear." Michael opened the folder and studied the first few pages. His expression remained neutral, but Claire noticed his eyes moving quickly across the numbers. "If these are legitimate, this is serious," he finally said. "But I need more. And I need to verify everything independently." "There is more," Claire said. "But I'm taking a huge risk even being here. Robert is powerful and has connections everywhere." "I understand." Michael closed the folder. "I protect my sources. But I need to know. Why now? Why not when you first discovered this?" Claire looked down at her coffee cup. "At first I was just shocked, then scared. I need my job. My mother has heart problems, and I pay for her treatments. But the fraud is getting bigger. He's planning to announce a new investment fund at the gala next month that would take in at least $50 million more from investors." Michael nodded slowly. "I'll look into what you've given me. If it checks out, we'll need to meet again." "I can meet next week. Same place?" "No, never use the same location twice. There's a park in Queens, Flushing Meadows, Tuesday at noon, by the large fountain." Back at work the next day, Claire jumped whenever Robert called her name. He seemed more irritable than usual as the gala approached. "The menu options you selected are all wrong," he said, throwing papers onto her desk. "Do you have any idea what people like Warren Mitchell eat?" "Certainly not chicken." "I'm sorry, Mr. Johnson. I'll change the menu right away. And make sure the lighting company understands exactly what I want. The last event they did for us was too dim. I want everyone to see me clearly when I accept the award." As Robert walked away, Claire's phone vibrated with a text from an unknown number. "Evidence checks out partially. Need more. Tuesday meeting confirmed." The following Tuesday, Claire told Robert she had a dentist appointment. Instead, she took a taxi to Flushing Meadows Park in Queens. Michael was already sitting on a bench near the fountain wearing a baseball cap. Claire sat beside him. "Did you verify the information?" "Some of it," Michael said. "The Cayman accounts exist, and the client withdrawals don't match the official records. But I need more concrete proof of Johnson's direct involvement." Claire reached into her bag and pulled out her red USB drive. "These are files showing his digital signature on transfers to the shell companies, and emails between him and someone named Marcus discussing how to hide the money." Michael inserted the drive into his laptop. As he scrolled through the documents, his expression changed. "This is what I needed," he said quietly. "With this, I can start contacting other sources to verify independently." He looked at Claire. You understand what will happen when this story breaks? Johnson will immediately suspect you. I know, Claire said, but I can't let him steal more money from people. He's planning to announce a new investment fund at the gala, the Sunrise Global Opportunities Fund. It's supposed to bring in another $50 million. When exactly is this gala? May 15th at the Grand Hyatt, New York. 300 guests. The mayor will be there. Robert will receive his award and announce the new fund right after. Michael handed the USB drive back to Claire. Copy what you need and get this back to me. I'll keep digging on my end. He paused. Be careful. Men like Johnson don't react well when their power is threatened. I will, Claire promised. She stood up to leave, then hesitated. Michael? What happens after your story comes out? That depends on how strong the evidence is, he replied. But typically the SEC and FBI get involved. Criminal charges if the fraud is as extensive as it appears. Back at Atlantic Investments, Claire was rushing through the lobby when she nearly collided with Robert. Where have you been? He demanded. Your dentist appointment ended 2 hours ago. Claire's heart raced. They found a cavity. I needed a filling. Robert stared at her for a long moment. Strange. Because I called your dentist to reschedule your annual cleaning, and they said you weren't there today. Claire felt the blood drain from her face. I went to a different dentist, a specialist. My regular dentist recommended him. Get upstairs. The caterer called with questions about the gala menu. As Claire stepped into the elevator, Robert added, Oh, and Claire? I need the presentation for the new Sunrise Fund by tomorrow morning. I want to review it before the gala announcement. The elevator doors closed, and Claire leaned against the wall, her legs weak. Robert was checking up on her. He suspected something. That evening, as Claire updated the presentation about the fraudulent Sunrise Fund, her phone buzzed with another text from Michael. Be careful. People like Robert Johnson don't just lose their power without a fight. Claire stared at Michael's text message, her fingers gripping the phone tightly. She deleted the message, then turned off her phone completely. Something about Robert's questions about her dentist appointment felt wrong, very wrong. The next morning, Claire arrived at work to find the accounting department in chaos. People stood in small groups, talking in hushed voices. Amy, the marketing assistant, rushed over to Claire. Did you hear? Amy whispered. Robert fired Tim from accounting this morning. Tim? Why? Claire asked. Tim had been with Atlantic Investments for 7 years. He questioned some numbers in the Cayman accounts, asked too many questions about transfer authorizations. Amy looked around nervously. Robert made him empty his desk while security watched, told everyone it was for insubordination. Claire's stomach tightened. Tim had been fired for noticing the same irregular patterns she had discovered. At her desk, Claire noticed something was different. Her stapler had moved. The papers in her top drawer were in a different order. Someone had searched her desk. When Robert arrived, he walked past her without speaking. Through his glass office wall, Claire could see him watching her. His eyes followed her movements as she answered the phone, filed papers, and prepared for the day. At 10:15, Robert called her into his office. Close the door, he said. Claire sat down, her back straight, hands folded in her lap. I need you to make changes to the Sunrise Fund presentation, Robert said, his voice unusually calm. Remove any mention of the expected returns. Just say it's a unique investment opportunity. Yes, Mr. Johnson. And Claire? His eyes narrowed. Have you noticed anything unusual lately? Any staff behavior that seems concerning? No, sir. Are you sure? Because information security tells me someone has been accessing sensitive files after hours. Claire kept her face neutral. That's concerning. I haven't noticed anything. That evening at home, Claire removed the red USB drive from her purse. She couldn't risk keeping it at work anymore. She found a thin silver chain in her jewelry box and threaded it through the drive's metal loop. The next morning, she wore the drive around her neck, hidden under her blouse. 3 days later, Claire was ordering lunch at a deli near the office when she overheard 2 men in suits at the next table. Atlantic Investments, one said quietly. My friend at Goldman says someone's asking questions about their offshore accounts. Johnson's company? Seriously? Just rumors right now, but Claire paid for her sandwich and left quickly. Michael's investigation was creating ripples in the financial world. That afternoon, Robert burst out of his office, face red with anger. Who's been talking to people outside this company? He shouted at the open office area. Someone in this room is spreading lies, and I will find out who it is. Employees looked at each other, confused and frightened. Robert pointed at Claire. My office. Now. Inside his office, Robert closed the blinds. I got a call from Warren Mitchell. He said a reporter has been asking questions about Atlantic's investment practices. Claire swallowed hard. What kind of questions? The kind that shouldn't be asked. Robert slammed his hand on the desk. Someone is feeding information to the press. I need to know what you've heard. Nothing, Mr. Johnson. I haven't heard anything. Robert stared at her for a long moment. I've always known you were useless, Claire, but I never thought you were disloyal. I'm not disloyal, Claire said, her voice steady despite her racing heart. We'll see. Robert turned to his computer. You can go. That night, Claire noticed a black car parked across from her apartment building. The same car was there the next night, and the night after that. She began taking different routes to work, sometimes using 3 different subway lines. She bought a disposable phone to contact Michael. I think I'm being watched, she told him when they spoke. That's concerning, but not surprising, Michael replied. I've verified most of the information you provided. I'm working on the article now. How much longer? 2 weeks, maybe less. I need to give Atlantic Investments a chance to comment before publication. Please don't use my name, Claire said. I won't. But be prepared. Johnson will suspect you regardless. The stress affected Claire's health. She lost 7 pounds in 2 weeks. Dark circles formed under her eyes. She jumped at small noises and checked over her shoulder constantly. One evening, 11 days before the gala, Claire stayed late at the office to finalize the seating chart. Most employees had left, but as she was gathering her things to leave, David Chen, the IT director, approached her desk. Working late again? He asked. Claire nodded. Gala preparations. David hesitated. Can I talk to you about something? In private? They moved to a small conference room. David closed the door. I've noticed some unusual patterns in our financial software, he said quietly. Duplicate accounts. Transfers that don't match our official records. Claire's heart raced. Why are you telling me this? Because you're the only person who might actually care. David leaned forward. I was hired to upgrade the financial systems. While doing that, I found these irregularities. When I mentioned them to my supervisor, he told me to ignore them. That's concerning, Claire said carefully. It's more than concerning. It's illegal. David looked directly at Claire. And I think you know about it too. What makes you say that? I've seen the access logs. Someone's been looking at those same files late at night, using Robert's login, but at times when he's not here. When you are. Claire felt cold fear spreading through her body. Are you going to report me? David shook his head. No. I think you're trying to do the right thing. I want to help. Why would you risk your job to help me? Because before I worked in IT, I was an auditor. I saw a company destroy people's life savings through fraud. I reported it and got fired. I promised myself I'd never stay silent again. David slid a small flash drive across the table. Here's additional evidence I've gathered. Technical logs that prove the tampering. 2 days later, Robert called an emergency staff meeting. Everyone gathered in the main conference room. After the gala next week, there will be significant staff changes at Atlantic Investments, Robert announced. His eyes scanned the room, lingering on Claire. Some positions will be eliminated, others will be restructured. Murmurs spread through the room. Robert continued, I've become aware of disloyalty within our ranks. That will be addressed. After the meeting, Claire returned to her desk, hands shaking slightly. Her desk phone rang. "Claire Williams," she answered. "Miss Williams, this is Special Agent Sarah Peterson, FBI Financial Crimes Division." Claire's breath caught in her throat. "Yes? We received an anonymous tip about potential financial fraud at Atlantic Investments. I'd like to ask you some questions." I can't talk now, not on this phone." "I understand. My number is 718-555-3942. Call when you can speak freely." That evening, Claire left work at 6:30. She took 4 different subway trains, constantly checking for anyone following her. When she finally reached her apartment, she closed all the blinds before calling Agent Peterson on her disposable phone. "The evidence you provided is compelling," Peterson said, "but we need more to build a solid case." "I have more," Claire said, "and I'm working with someone else who has evidence too." "The journalist? Michael Torres?" Claire was shocked. "How did you know?" "We have sources too, Ms. Williams. When do you think Torres will publish his story?" "Soon. Before the gala on May 15th. That complicates things for our investigation, but it might work to our advantage," Peterson said. "Can we meet tomorrow to discuss this further?" The next morning, Claire received a text from David Chen. "He knows something's coming. Be careful tomorrow." Claire stared at David's text message for a long time. Could she trust him? Or was this a trap set by Robert to catch her? After all, David was new to the company. Maybe Robert had hired him specifically to find the person accessing his files. She called Michael Torres using her disposable phone. "I need your advice," Claire said. "The IT director says he found the same fraud evidence I did. He wants to help. Should I trust him?" "What's your gut feeling?" Michael asked. "I think he's genuine, but I can't afford to be wrong. Meet him somewhere public. Don't bring your main evidence, see what he has first." Claire texted David, "Brooklyn Public Library, tomorrow, 1 o'clock. The next day, Claire sat at a table in the back corner of the library. She had arrived 30 minutes early to make sure nobody followed her. David walked in at exactly 1 o'clock and sat across from her. "Thank you for meeting me," he said quietly. "Why should I trust you?" Claire asked directly. David took a deep breath. 6 years ago, I worked at Monroe Financial in Chicago. I discovered the CFO was stealing money from client accounts. When I reported it, they fired me. The CFO is now in prison, but I lost my career and reputation." He looked directly at Claire. "I won't let that happen again." "What exactly did you find at Atlantic?" Claire asked. David opened his laptop. "I was hired to upgrade the financial software. While transferring data, I found multiple sets of books. Look at this." He turned the screen toward Claire. "These are the official client statements for the Henderson Group account, and these are the actual internal records. There's a $3 million difference." Claire studied the screen. The evidence matched what she had found. "There's more," David continued. "Robert has been moving money through shell companies in the Cayman Islands. I tracked the transfers. They all lead back to accounts he controls." Claire hesitated, then made her decision. "I've been gathering evidence for months. I'm working with a journalist from the New York Times." David's eyes widened. "That's why Robert's been so paranoid lately." "Have they started investigating?" "Yes. The article should be published soon." "Claire, there's something else you need to know." David lowered his voice even more. "I found files with your electronic signature on transfers you never authorized. Robert's setting you up to take the blame if this comes out." Claire felt the blood drain from her face. "He's going to frame me?" "Exactly. But I've made copies of the logs showing when those signatures were created. They were all done when you weren't even in the building." After the library meeting, Claire went to a coffee shop with free internet. Using their public computer, she created a new email account and sent an anonymous tip to the FBI Financial Crimes Division with some of the evidence David had given her. The next morning, Claire arrived at work to find Robert in an unusually good mood. "Claire!" Just the person I wanted to see, he said with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. How are the gala preparations coming along? Everything is on schedule, Mr. Johnson. Excellent. I've invited 20 additional guests, major potential investors for the Sunrise Fund. Make sure they're all seated at premium tables. Claire nodded. I'll rework the seating chart today. The flowers for tomorrow's pre-gala reception arrived. Robert continued. Come see if they're acceptable. Claire followed Robert to the conference room where dozens of flower arrangements had been placed. They were elegant white roses with silver accents, exactly what Robert had requested. Robert frowned. These are completely wrong. I said white roses with gold accents. These are silver. I can call the florist but you can't do anything right. Robert grabbed one of the crystal vases and threw it against the wall. It shattered, sending water and flowers across the floor. This is the most important event of my career, and you're trying to ruin it. Several employees in the hallway stopped to stare. David Chen was among them, his expression grim as he watched Robert's outburst. I'm sorry, Mr. Johnson, Claire said, her voice steady despite her racing heart. I'll call the florist immediately. After work, Claire met with Agent Sarah Peterson at a small diner in Queens. The evidence you and Mr. Chen provided is compelling, Peterson said. We've opened an official investigation. How long will it take? Claire asked. Financial crime cases are complex, normally months. But given the timing with this gala and the new investment fund launch, we're expediting everything. Peterson sipped her coffee. The journalist, Torres, when is he publishing? He's planning to time it with the gala for maximum impact. Peterson nodded. That could work in our favor, but it also complicates things. We prefer to complete our investigation before public exposure. Robert is planning to announce the new Sunrise Fund at the gala. It will bring in at least $50 million more from innocent investors. I understand. Peterson handed Claire her card. If anything changes, call me immediately. And be careful. People like Johnson can be dangerous when cornered. That evening, Claire received a text from Michael asking to meet. She suggested his apartment, where they would have privacy. When she arrived, David Chen was already there. I hope you don't mind, Michael said. I wanted all of us to coordinate our approach. The three of them sat at Michael's kitchen table, surrounded by documents and laptops. My article is nearly ready, Michael explained. I've verified the evidence independently. Multiple sources have confirmed the pattern of fraud at Atlantic Investments. The FBI has opened an investigation, Claire said. Agent Peterson is building a case. They contacted me yesterday, Michael confirmed. We're coordinating our timing. David opened his laptop. I've secured digital copies of all the evidence in multiple locations. Even if Robert destroys the originals, we have backups. He's going to fire me after the gala, Claire said. He told me the company is restructuring. That gives us a deadline, Michael said. The gala is the perfect moment to expose him. Maximum visibility, important witnesses, and before he can launch the new fraudulent fund. I agree, said David. And before he can frame Claire for his crimes. They spent hours refining their plan. Michael would arrange for the evening edition of the New York Times to be delivered to the gala just as Robert was giving his acceptance speech. Agent Peterson and her team would arrive to make the arrest immediately after. What about the evidence showing Robert tried to frame me? Claire asked. I'll stand up at the gala and present it, David said. As the IT director, my testimony about the electronic signatures will be credible. It was nearly midnight when they finished. As Claire prepared to leave, Michael stopped her. Are you sure you want to be at the gala when this happens? He asked. Robert will immediately know you were involved. Claire nodded. I need to be there. For 5 years I've listened to him call me worthless while he stole from people. I want to see his face when it all comes crashing down. The day before the gala, Robert called Claire into his office. Is everything ready for tomorrow? He demanded. Yes, Mr. Johnson. Everything is arranged exactly as you requested. Robert leaned back in his chair. You know, Claire, I've been thinking about your future at Atlantic. My future? After tomorrow's successful event, I'll be making some changes to the executive floor." His eyes were cold. "Some positions will be eliminated." Claire understood the threat clearly. "I see. But for now, focus on making tomorrow perfect. The mayor will introduce me at 8 o'clock sharp. The Sunrise Fund announcement will follow my acceptance speech." Robert smiled thinly. "It will be a night no one forgets." As Claire left his office, her phone buzzed with a message from Agent Peterson. "All set for tomorrow. Warrants approved. Be ready." Claire read Agent Peterson's message twice, then deleted it. Tomorrow would change everything. She touched the red USB drive hanging around her neck under her blouse. For months, she had carried the evidence of Robert's crimes close to her heart, and tomorrow, the truth would finally come out. The morning of the day before the gala, Claire arrived at work earlier than usual, 6 o'clock. She needed to finish the final preparations without interruption. The office was empty and quiet as she reviewed the seating chart one last time. Her phone rang. It was David. "I found something else," he said, his voice tense. "Can you meet me in the server room?" "Now?" 5 minutes later, Claire entered the small, cold room filled with humming servers. David sat at a computer terminal, his face illuminated by the screen. "Look at this," he said, pointing to lines of code. "Robert created a separate digital signature file in your name last month. He's used it on at least 7 fraudulent transfer documents." Claire leaned closer. "What does that mean exactly?" "It means if the fraud is discovered, these documents show you authorized millions in illegal transfers. Your signature is on all of them." David pulled up another screen. "But I found the access logs. All these documents were created between midnight and 2 in the morning on dates when building security records show you weren't even in the building. Can you prove it wasn't me?" "Absolutely. The digital signature was created using Robert's admin credentials, not yours. And I have the security logs showing you were gone hours before these were created." David looked at Claire. "He was planning to sacrifice you if anyone discovered the fraud." Claire felt cold anger replace her fear. "Make copies of everything." "Already done. Multiple secure locations like we discussed." Later that morning, the office buzzed with pre-gala energy. Claire managed final details while taking constant calls from vendors. At 11:30, she was confirming the arrival time for the mayor when Robert suddenly appeared beside her desk. "The guest list. Where is it?" he demanded. Claire handed him the folder. 300 guests confirmed. Robert flipped through the pages, frowning. "Why is James Wilson seated at table 8? He should be at my table. You specifically said to put the Henderson group at your table instead. There wasn't space for both." Robert slammed the folder down. "Move things around. Wilson is bringing potential investors." "Yes, Mr. Johnson." As Robert walked away, Claire noticed he was walking faster than usual, checking his watch repeatedly. He made 3 private phone calls from his office with the blinds closed. At 2 in the afternoon, Claire called Michael. "Everything is set on my end," Michael told her. "The story will be on the front page of the evening edition. Printing starts at 6 tonight. Delivery to the Grand Hyatt at 8:15 tomorrow." "Robert's acting strange today," Claire said, "making private calls, checking his watch constantly." "That's concerning. Has he said anything about leaving town?" "Nothing specific, but yesterday I overheard him telling someone he'd be there next week with everything. I'll let Agent Peterson know. He might be planning to run after the gala." Claire spent the afternoon at the Grand Hyatt, overseeing the ballroom setup. Crystal chandeliers sparkled above tables covered with white linens. The stage was set with a podium bearing the Atlantic Investments logo. Her phone rang. It was Agent Peterson. "We have a potential complication," Peterson said. "Our surveillance team observed Robert meeting with someone at his bank this morning. He withdrew a large amount of cash." "Is he planning to run?" Claire asked. "Possibly. We're monitoring all private airports and his passport activity." Peterson paused. "We may need to move up our timeline, but the evidence exposure at the gala. will still happen, but I'm positioning agents around the hotel starting tonight, not just tomorrow. When Claire returned to the office at 5, Robert called her into his office immediately. "I need to review the Sunrise Fund presentation again," he said. "Pull it up." Claire opened the presentation on his computer. Robert studied each slide carefully. "The expected return section is too specific," he said. "Remove all the percentage numbers." "But those are the projections you approved last week," Claire said. "Just do it," Robert snapped. "No specific returns mentioned anywhere. Just say it's a unique investment opportunity, like I told you before." Claire made the changes while Robert watched impatiently. "Send me the final version, I'll review it again tonight." As Claire walked back to her desk, she noticed Robert opening his safe and removing several files. At 7 that evening, Claire, David, and Michael met at a small restaurant 10 blocks from the Atlantic Investments office. "Robert removed files from his safe today," Claire said, "and Agent Peterson says he withdrew cash from his bank." "He's planning to run," David said. Michael nodded. "The FBI is watching him. They won't let him leave the country." "Let's review the plan for tomorrow," Claire said, keeping her voice low. "I'll be at the hotel from 7 in the morning overseeing everything." "I'll arrive at 7:30 in the evening just before the event starts," David said. "As a company executive, I'm on the guest list." "I'll be there by 8, Michael added. The newspapers arrive at 8:15, right as Robert should be giving his acceptance speech. "And the FBI?" David asked. "Agent Peterson will position agents around the ballroom," Claire explained. "She'll enter with her team when Michael gives the signal." "The evidence?" Michael asked. "I'll have the red USB drive with me," Claire said, touching her neck where it hung on its chain. "And I have the files showing he tried to frame you," David added. "Plus backups in 3 secure cloud locations only I can access." They spent another hour going over every detail. It was almost 9 when they finally left the restaurant. "Try to get some sleep," Michael told Claire as they parted. "Tomorrow will be intense." But sleep was impossible that night. Claire lay in bed staring at the ceiling, imagining all the ways tomorrow could go wrong. What if Robert discovered their plan? What if the newspapers were delayed? What if the FBI couldn't get into the ballroom? At 11:30, she gave up on sleep and opened her laptop. She wrote a long email to her mother, explaining everything that had happened and what would happen tomorrow. She saved it as a draft, but didn't send it. If things went as planned, she would tell her mother in person. Just after midnight, Claire's phone lit up with a text from Robert. "Make sure the lighting is fixed on the stage. Last time I checked, it was all wrong. At 1:15. Change table 3. Henderson should not sit near Mitchell. At 2:30. Check the menu again. No shellfish at my table." Claire realized Robert was deliberately trying to keep her awake and stressed before the biggest day. She turned off her phone. Just before dawn, Claire finally drifted into a restless sleep, only to be awakened by her alarm at 5:30. She showered quickly, dressed in her most professional outfit, and carefully placed the red USB drive on its chain around her neck. As she prepared to leave for the Grand Hyatt, her phone buzzed with a message from David. "Security alert from our systems. Someone accessed your email account at 3 a.m. Be careful." Robert had been searching her emails. Claire quickly checked her accounts. The draft email to her mother about the evidence was still there, unsent. Had Robert seen anything else? Had he found any communication with Michael or David? Her hands shook as she gathered her purse and gala materials. In exactly 12 hours, Robert Johnson would be exposed to the world as a fraud. But until then, she had to maintain the perfect facade of the loyal, obedient assistant preparing his moment of glory. As she left her apartment, another text arrived from Agent Peterson. "Subject made multiple calls to a private airfield last night. Jet on standby. We're watching. Proceed as planned." Claire tucked her phone into her pocket and hurried to catch the taxi she had called. Robert had a private jet ready. He was planning to escape after the gala. The pieces were falling into place. the cash withdrawal, the removed files, the middle-of-the-night emails. After his moment of glory, Robert planned to disappear. The taxi dropped Claire at the Grand Hyatt at 7 in the morning. The massive hotel lobby was already busy with staff preparing for the day's events. Claire showed her event coordinator badge to security and headed directly to the ballroom. "Good morning, Ms. Williams," said the head of hotel catering, meeting her at the ballroom doors. "We've been here since 5 setting up." Claire entered the enormous space. Round tables covered with white linens filled the room. Hotel staff arranged crystal glasses and fine china. Florists worked on elaborate centerpieces of white roses with gold accents. The stage at the front held a podium with the Atlantic Investments logo. "Everything looks beautiful," Claire said. "Is the lighting fixed on the stage?" "Yes, we adjusted it early this morning. Mr. Johnson will be perfectly illuminated during his speech." Claire worked steadily through the morning, checking every detail. At 11:30, she met with the catering manager. "No shellfish at table 1, she confirmed. "Mr. Johnson specifically requested that change." "Already noted," the manager said. "The special menus have been printed." Claire's phone buzzed with a text from Michael. "Papers going to print in 6 hours, all set on your end?" She replied, "Yes, everything proceeding as planned." At noon, Claire was reviewing the seating cards when the ballroom doors opened. Robert Johnson walked in wearing an expensive dark suit. He scanned the room critically. "Claire, is everything ready?" He called out, "Yes, Mr. Johnson. Would you like to do a walkthrough?" Robert nodded and began inspecting the room. He checked the stage, tested the microphone, examined the table settings, and studied the lighting. "The stage lighting is still too dim," he complained. "I want it brighter." "I'll have them adjusted again," Claire said, making a note. "And these centerpieces are too tall. People won't be able to see each other across the tables. I'll ask the florist to lower them." As they continued the inspection, Claire noticed Robert checking his watch repeatedly. He seemed agitated, his movements faster than usual. "I need to make a call," he said suddenly. "Continue the inspection. I'll be back." Robert walked to a quiet corner of the hotel lobby. Claire pretended to check something at a nearby table, positioning herself to overhear his conversation. "Yes, everything is confirmed for tomorrow morning," Robert said quietly into his phone. "The Cayman account is ready. Yes, I'll bring the documents with me. No, nobody suspects anything." When Robert returned, his face was composed again. "Where were we?" "Ah, yes. The mayor arrives at 7:30, correct?" "Yes, sir. He'll be seated at your table." "Good. And the speech? Where is my final copy?" Claire handed him a folder. "Here it is, with your talking points highlighted." Robert skimmed the pages. "This looks good. Make sure the teleprompter is properly programmed." At 2 in the afternoon, Robert left to attend a lunch meeting. Claire immediately called Agent Peterson. "He's definitely planning to leave the country," Claire reported. "I overheard him talking about flying to the Cayman Islands tomorrow morning." "We have agents watching all private airfields," Peterson assured her. "He won't get away." "How are the preparations going?" "Everything is on schedule. The mayor arrives at 7:30. Robert's speech begins at 8. "Perfect. My team will be in position by 7. I'll enter with the main team at exactly 8:15, right after the newspapers arrive." Claire spent the afternoon overseeing final preparations. At 4:30, she received a call from David. "I'm at the office," he said. Robert came back and went straight to his safe again. "He's removing more documents." "Can you see what they are?" "No, but he's putting them in a small travel bag." "Claire, I found something else you should know. He's created more fake documents with your signature, dated just last week. He's building a stronger case against you." Claire's hands tightened on her phone. "We'll stop him tonight." At 5 o'clock, hotel staff began their final preparations. Bartenders set up serving stations. The band arrived and began setting up their equipment. Claire's phone rang. It was Michael. "The papers are printing now," he said. "The story turned out even stronger than I expected. I've included everything: the fake accounts, the money laundering, the client theft, and his attempt to frame you. It's all there. Will the papers arrive on time? Yes. I've arranged for a special delivery to the hotel at 8:15. The waiters know to distribute them to all the tables. At 6 in the evening, Claire went to a small hotel room she had booked for herself. She needed a moment alone to prepare for what was coming. She changed into a simple but elegant black dress, professional but still formal enough for the gala. She touched the red USB drive hanging around her neck, then carefully tucked it under her dress. She looked at herself in the mirror. For 5 years, she had been Robert's victim, enduring his abuse and humiliation. Tonight, that would end. At 6:30, she returned to the ballroom. Early staff from Atlantic Investments had begun to arrive, executives and their spouses coming to claim the best cocktail spots before the official 7 o'clock start. Claire's phone buzzed with a text from Agent Peterson. Teams in position. 6 agents in hotel staff uniforms inside ballroom. 8 more in the lobby. 4 covering exits. We are ready. At 6:45, Robert arrived in a tuxedo, his wife beside him in an expensive designer gown. Mrs. Johnson barely acknowledged Claire with a slight nod before moving to greet other early arrivals. Robert pulled Claire aside. Is everything perfect? It better be. Yes, Mr. Johnson. Everything is exactly as you requested. The mayor? His car will arrive at 7:25. We have staff waiting to escort him in. Robert nodded. And the Sunrise Fund presentation? Loaded on the system and tested twice. It will display on all screens immediately after your award acceptance. At 7 o'clock, guests began arriving steadily. Claire stood near the entrance, checking names off the list and directing people to their tables. She recognized faces from the financial world, politicians, celebrities, 300 of New York's most powerful and wealthy individuals. At 7:20, David Chen arrived. He caught Claire's eye across the room and gave a subtle nod. He was wearing a dark suit with a small earpiece, looking like many of the executives in the room but ready to present his evidence when the time came. The mayor arrived at 7:25, accompanied by his wife and 2 security guards. Robert immediately moved to greet him, smiling broadly and posing for photos. By 7:45, the ballroom was filled with guests enjoying pre-dinner cocktails. The band played soft jazz. Waiters circulated with trays of champagne. From the outside, it looked like any high society New York event. At 7:50, Claire spotted Michael Torres entering the ballroom. He was dressed in a suit like the other guests, but positioned himself near the back of the room with a clear view of the stage. He made brief eye contact with Claire and touched his watch. 8 o'clock was approaching. The event coordinator announced that guests should take their seats for dinner and the program. People moved to their assigned tables. Robert sat at table 1 with the mayor, Mrs. Johnson, and 6 major investors. Claire stood near the back wall watching as everyone settled. In 15 minutes, everything would change. At 8 o'clock exactly, the lights dimmed slightly and the hotel manager approached the podium. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the annual Business Excellence Gala. We are honored to host such a distinguished group tonight as we celebrate excellence in the financial industry. After a brief introduction, the manager invited the mayor to the stage. The mayor adjusted the microphone and smiled at the audience. Good evening, everyone. It's my privilege to be here tonight to honor a shining example of American business excellence. Robert Johnson has built Atlantic Investments into one of New York's most respected financial institutions. As the mayor continued his introduction, Robert straightened his tie and prepared to approach the stage. He caught Claire's eye across the room and smirked, confident in his moment of glory. Claire checked her watch. 8:12. Just 3 more minutes until the newspapers would arrive. She touched the USB drive beneath her dress and took a deep breath. The mayor concluded his introduction. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor to present the Businessman of the Year award to Robert Johnson, CEO of Atlantic Investments. The room erupted in applause as Robert rose from his seat and walked confidently toward the stage to accept his award and deliver his speech, unaware that his world was about to collapse. Robert Johnson climbed the steps to the stage as the audience applauded. His smile was confident as he shook the mayor's hand and accepted the Crystal Award. He stood at the podium, looking out over the 300 guests who represented New York's elite. "Thank you, Mayor Williams, for that generous introduction," Robert began, his voice smooth and practiced. "Success comes to those who take control of their destiny. I've built Atlantic Investments through hard work, determination, and integrity." Claire watched from the back of the ballroom, her heart pounding. She glanced at her watch. 8:14. One more minute. Robert continued. "When I started Atlantic Investments 15 years ago, people said I was too ambitious, too aggressive, but I knew what it took to succeed in this city." As Robert spoke, hotel staff quietly opened the ballroom's side doors. Waiters entered carrying stacks of newspapers instead of the expected champagne for the toast. They began placing a copy of the evening edition of the New York Times on each table. Robert noticed the movement in the room but continued his speech. "Integrity has always been our guiding principle at Atlantic. Our clients trust us with their money because they know we—" He stopped mid-sentence as he saw guests picking up the newspapers. Confused murmurs spread through the ballroom. A woman at table 3 gasped loudly. From his position at the back, Michael Torres watched as the first guests saw the headline, "Atlantic Investments. CEO involved in massive financial fraud." Robert's face paled as he realized what was happening. That is," he stammered, losing his place in the speech. At that moment, the main doors of the ballroom opened. FBI agent Sarah Peterson entered, followed by a team of agents in dark suits. They moved efficiently through the room toward the stage. "What is the meaning of this?" Robert demanded into the microphone, his voice suddenly shrill. The mayor, still seated on stage, picked up a copy of the newspaper a waiter had placed there. His eyes widened as he read the front page. Agent Peterson approached the stage, microphone in hand. "Robert Johnson," she announced clearly, her voice carrying through the ballroom. "I'm Special Agent Sarah Peterson with the FBI's Financial Crimes Division." The room fell completely silent. "What is this?" Robert sputtered, gripping the podium. "We have evidence of extensive financial crimes committed by you in Atlantic Investments," Peterson continued. "Tax fraud, money laundering, embezzlement, and conspiracy to commit fraud." Guests began standing to see better. Phones appeared as people started recording the scene. "This is ridiculous," Robert shouted. "These accusations are completely false." At that moment, David Chen stepped forward from the crowd. "They're not false, Mr. Johnson," he said loudly. "As Atlantic's IT director, I discovered your double bookkeeping system. I found the shell companies in the Cayman Islands, and most importantly, I found evidence that you created falsified documents with Claire Williams' electronic signature, attempting to frame her for your crimes." Shocked gasps filled the room. All eyes turned to Claire, standing near the back wall. The signatures were created between midnight and 2 in the morning on dates when building security records show Claire wasn't even in the building, David continued. "I have the access logs proving it was your administrator credentials that created them." Robert's face contorted with rage as he searched the room and found Claire. "You!" he shouted into the microphone. "You did this!" Claire stood tall, meeting his gaze without flinching. "Sir, please step down from the podium," Agent Peterson said firmly. Instead, Robert suddenly leapt from the stage and pushed his way through the shocked crowd toward Claire. "You're nothing!" he shouted as he moved. "You're nobody!" Security guards moved quickly to intercept him, but Robert reached Claire first. He grabbed her arm roughly, his face inches from hers. "I made you. I can destroy you," he hissed. For the first time in 5 years, Claire didn't shrink away. She looked directly into Robert's eyes and said calmly, "No, Robert, I'm not nobody. I'm the person who finally held you accountable." 2 security guards pulled Robert away from Claire as Agent Peterson approached with handcuffs. "Robert Johnson, you're under arrest for tax fraud, money laundering, embezzlement, and conspiracy to commit fraud. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law." As the agents handcuffed him, Robert continued to shout, "This is all a mistake! I'm being set up! Call my lawyer immediately!" The ballroom had erupted into chaos. Guests stood filming with their phones. Reporters who had been invited to cover the award were now frantically calling their news desks. The mayor quickly exited the stage, his security team surrounding him. Mrs. Johnson remained seated at table 1, her face frozen in shock as her husband was led away in handcuffs. Agent Peterson approached Claire after Robert was secured. "Are you okay?" she asked quietly. Claire nodded. "Yes, I'm fine." "We'll need your formal statement tomorrow," Peterson said. "For now, try to avoid talking to the press." David and Michael made their way through the crowd to Claire's side. "You did it," Michael said. "You stood up to him." "We all did," Claire replied. "I couldn't have done this alone." David gestured to the red USB drive now visible around Claire's neck. "Is that what I think it is?" Claire nodded. "All the evidence. I've been carrying it for months." As Robert was escorted toward the exit, he turned one last time to glare at Claire. "This isn't over," he shouted. "You'll regret this!" Claire didn't respond. She simply watched as the man who had tormented her for 5 years was led away by federal agents. A hotel manager approached Claire nervously. "Miss Williams? What should we do about the event? Should we continue with dinner?" Claire looked around at the chaotic scene. "I think the event is over. Please make an announcement that guests can stay for dinner if they wish, but the program has concluded." As the manager walked away, Claire felt a hand on her shoulder. She turned to see Amy, the young marketing assistant from Atlantic. "Is it true?" Amy asked, her eyes wide. "Everything in the newspaper about what he did?" "Yes," Claire said. "It's all true. What happens to the company now? What happens to our jobs?" Claire hadn't thought that far ahead. "I don't know yet," she admitted. "But the company is more than just Robert. The board of directors will have to decide what happens next." Over the next hour, most guests left the gala. Some stayed to finish their dinner, talking excitedly about what they had witnessed. Reporters gathered in the hotel lobby, hoping to get statements from departing guests. Claire, Michael, and David sat at an empty table in the corner of the ballroom. "The FBI will seize Atlantic's records tomorrow," Peterson told them, joining them briefly. "They'll likely freeze some accounts during the investigation." "What about the clients?" Claire asked. "Will they lose their investments?" "That depends on how much money is left," Peterson said honestly. "We'll know more once we've gone through all the accounts." As the ballroom emptied, Claire looked around at the elaborate decorations she had spent weeks arranging. The stage where Robert was supposed to have his moment of glory. The tables where New York's elite had gathered to celebrate him. "I should go," she said finally. "It's been a long day." "Do you want me to come with you?" Michael asked. "The press might be waiting outside." "No, I'll be okay. I think I need some time alone." As Claire walked through the hotel lobby, several reporters called out questions. She kept walking, eyes forward, until she reached the street outside. The cool night air felt refreshing after the intensity of the evening. For the first time in 5 years, she didn't need to worry about Robert's calls or texts. She didn't need to fear his anger. She was free. Her phone rang. It was her mother. "Claire? I just saw the news. Robert Johnson was arrested at the gala. Wasn't that your event?" Claire smiled. "Yes, Mom. It was my event, and I have quite a story to tell you." Claire sat at her mother's kitchen table in Queens the next morning. She had spent hours explaining everything. How she discovered Robert's fraud, gathered evidence for months, and worked with Michael and David to expose him. "I can't believe you carried that USB drive around your neck all this time," her mother said, pouring more tea into Claire's cup. "Weren't you scared?" "Every day," Claire admitted. "But I knew I had to do something. He was stealing millions of dollars from people." "I'm so proud of you," her mother said. reaching across the table to squeeze Claire's hand. "You always did have a strong sense of right and wrong, even as a little girl." Claire's phone buzzed. It was David Chen. "Claire, you need to come to the office. The board of directors has called an emergency meeting. They're asking for you." "I'll be there in an hour," Claire replied. As her taxi approached the Atlantic Investments building in Manhattan, Claire saw news vans lining the street. Reporters stood doing live broadcasts, the company's logo visible in the background of their shots. "I can't get any closer," the taxi driver said. "The street's blocked." "This is fine," Claire said, paying the fare. She pulled her coat collar up and walked quickly toward the building. "Miss Williams!" "Claire, can we get a statement?" Reporters called out, recognizing her immediately. Claire kept walking, eyes forward, until she reached the lobby doors. She hesitated before scanning her security badge. Would it still work? The light turned green and the door unlocked. Claire stepped into the lobby, which was unusually quiet. The security guard nodded to her with new respect in his eyes. When the elevator doors opened on the 47th floor, Claire saw FBI agents in dark suits moving through the office. Yellow tape sealed Robert's corner office. Agents carried boxes of files and computer equipment. Employees stood in small groups talking in hushed voices. When they saw Claire, conversations stopped. Some looked away nervously. Others approached her. "Is it true what they're saying on the news?" asked Tom from accounting. "That Robert was laundering money?" Before Claire could answer, Amy from marketing rushed up. "Claire! Everyone's saying you're the one who exposed him. You gathered the evidence." "The board is waiting for you in the main conference room," David said, appearing at Claire's side. He guided her through the office, past the staring employees. 6 members of the board of directors sat around the large glass table. They looked tired and grim. Chairman William Parker gestured for Claire to sit. "Ms. Williams," he began, "we find ourselves in an unprecedented situation. Robert Johnson, the CEO of this company, has been arrested for financial crimes. The FBI has sealed his office and is seizing records. Our stock has dropped 27% since the market opened this morning. Clients are calling to withdraw their funds. The press is calling every 5 minutes." Claire nodded but remained silent. "We understand you played a central role in uncovering Robert's activities," Parker continued. "We need to know exactly what you found and how long you knew about it." For the next hour, Claire explained everything. How she accidentally discovered the first files, the evidence she gathered over months, Robert's plan to frame her, and her collaboration with David, Michael, and the FBI. The board members listened intently, occasionally asking questions. When Claire finished, Parker leaned forward. "We appreciate your honesty, Ms. Williams. While we wish you had come to the board first, we understand your concerns about Robert's retaliation. The evidence you gathered will help us cooperate fully with the authorities and hopefully salvage what we can of the company." "What happens now?" Claire asked. "We're appointing Jennifer Martinez as interim CEO, effective immediately," Parker said, gesturing to the woman at the end of the table. Claire recognized her as the company's chief operating officer. Jennifer has been with Atlantic for 7 years and was not involved in any of Robert's schemes. Jennifer nodded at Claire. "I'd like to speak with you privately after this meeting." As the meeting concluded, Parker added, "Ms. Williams, the press is requesting interviews with you. We can't tell you what to do, but we hope you'll coordinate with our communications team before making any statements." In Jennifer's office, previously a conference room being hastily converted, Claire sat across from the new interim CEO. "First, I want to thank you," Jennifer said. "What you did took incredible courage." "I just did what was right," Claire replied. "Not everyone would. Many would have looked the other way." Jennifer placed a folder on the desk. "The board has asked me to rebuild Atlantic's reputation. I'm creating an ethics committee and implementing transparent financial practices. I want to make sure nothing like this ever happens again." "That's good to hear. I'd like your help, Claire. You know where the bodies are buried, so to speak." Jennifer opened the folder. "I'm offering you a new position, special advisor to the CEO on corporate ethics. You'd help us clean house and build new safeguards." Claire was surprised. "You're not firing me?" Jennifer smiled. "Firing you would be the worst business decision I could make. You're the hero in this story, Claire. You stood up against corruption when it would have been easier to stay silent." "I'll need to think about it," Claire said. "I've received other job offers this morning." "I'm not surprised. Take your time, but know that you have a place here if you want it." As Claire walked back to her desk, she noticed FBI agent Peterson interviewing staff in a small conference room. Peterson waved her over. "Just the person I wanted to see," Peterson said. "We need your formal statement. Do you have time now?" For the next 2 hours, Claire provided her official testimony. She detailed each piece of evidence she had discovered, every conversation with Robert that indicated his knowledge of the fraud, and his attempts to frame her. "What happens to Robert now?" Claire asked when they finished. "He's being held without bail," Peterson said. "The judge deemed him a flight risk given the evidence of his planned escape to the Cayman Islands. The U.S. attorney is filing 27 criminal counts against him. He's facing up to 30 years in prison." When Claire finally left the building that evening, reporters were still camped outside. She pushed through them with a brief no comment and took a taxi to her apartment in Queens. More reporters waited outside her building. A neighbor helped her slip in through a side entrance. Inside her apartment, Claire found 6 voice messages on her phone. 2 were from law firms offering to represent her. 1 was from a publishing agent interested in a book deal. 3 were from major financial firms offering her jobs. Her email inbox contained 47 new messages, including one from the Wall Street Journal requesting an interview and another from CNN inviting her to appear on a morning show. Claire was exhausted. She turned off her phone and took a long shower, trying to process the events of the past 24 hours. The next morning, Claire met Michael Torres for coffee at a small shop in Brooklyn, away from the media frenzy. "You're famous now," Michael said, sliding a stack of newspapers across the table. Each featured the story of Robert's arrest, with Claire mentioned prominently. "I never wanted fame," Claire said. "I just wanted to stop him." "Well, you did that. The SEC has frozen all of Atlantic's accounts. They're working to determine how much money is recoverable for the clients." Michael sipped his coffee. "What will you do now?" "I'm not sure. Jennifer Martinez offered me a position helping to rebuild the company. Other firms have made offers, too." "Whatever you decide, you've made a difference," Michael said. "Robert's arrest is sending shockwaves through Wall Street. Other firms are conducting internal reviews, afraid they'll be next." That afternoon, Claire returned to Atlantic Investments for a meeting with David Chen, now promoted to Chief Technology Officer. "The board approved my security overhaul plan," David told her, showing her the proposal. "New financial tracking systems, enhanced oversight, mandatory dual approvals for large transfers. Nothing like what Robert did could happen again." "That's impressive," Claire said, reviewing the document. "Have you decided about Jennifer's offer?" David asked. "Not yet. I have a lot to consider." As they talked, a breaking news alert appeared on David's computer screen. Atlantic Investments Board announces internal investigation into Robert Johnson's fraud. The article included a statement from Jennifer Martinez. "While we cannot undo the damage caused by our former CEO, we are committed to full transparency, cooperation with authorities, and making our clients whole. We are fortunate that brave employees like Claire Williams stood up for what was right." 5 days after Robert's arrest, Claire visited him at the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn. She sat across from him at a small table in the visitors area. "Why are you here?" Robert asked, his voice lacking its usual confidence. His expensive suit had been replaced by an orange jumpsuit. "I wanted to see you one last time," Claire said. "To understand why you did it." Robert laughed bitterly. "Because I could. Because the money was there, and no one was watching. Because people like me make the rules." "Not anymore," Claire said quietly. Robert leaned forward. You think you've won? My lawyers will fight every charge. I still have friends in high places. Maybe, Claire acknowledged. But the evidence is overwhelming, and even if you somehow avoid prison, everyone knows what you did now. Your reputation is destroyed. Why did you do it, Claire? I gave you a job. I paid you well. You abused me daily. You stole from innocent people, and you were planning to frame me for your crimes. Claire stood up. You asked why I'm here. I wanted to see if you felt any remorse. Clearly you don't. As she walked away, Robert called after her, I'll remember this, Claire, when I get out. But Claire didn't turn around. She had said what she needed to say. She was ready to move forward. Claire walked out of the Metropolitan Detention Center feeling lighter than she had in years. Her visit with Robert had confirmed what she already knew. He felt no remorse for his actions. It was time to leave the past behind and focus on her future. 6 months passed. On a crisp autumn morning, Claire Williams stood in front of her bathroom mirror adjusting her silk blouse. The nameplate on her office door now read, Claire Williams, Executive Director of Corporate Ethics. After considering multiple job offers, Claire had accepted a position at Hamilton Financial Group, one of the largest firms on Wall Street. Her salary was double what Robert had paid her, and her schedule allowed her to spend more time with her mother. Mom, are you ready? Claire called, grabbing her briefcase. We don't want to be late for your doctor's appointment. Her mother emerged from the guest bedroom of Claire's new Manhattan apartment. After years in her small Queens apartment, Claire had moved to a spacious 2-bedroom with a view of Central Park. Her mother now lived with her, making her medical care much easier to manage. I'm ready, her mother said, smiling. Though I don't know why you still come with me. Dr. Mitchell says my heart is stronger than it's been in years. I like hearing the good news myself, Claire said, hugging her mother. After the doctor's appointment, Claire headed to her office at Hamilton Financial. Her assistant, Mark, greeted her at the elevator. Good morning, Claire. The Congressional Committee staff called again to confirm your testimony tomorrow, and Mr. Reynolds wants to meet at 2 to discuss the ethics training program. Thank you, Mark. Any messages from the foundation? Yes, 3 new companies want to implement the guidelines. The requests are on your desk. Claire entered her office, a large corner space with floor-to-ceiling windows. On her desk sat a framed copy of the New York Times from the day after Robert's arrest. Next to it was a photo of Claire with Michael Torres at the Pulitzer Prize ceremony 3 months earlier. Michael had won journalism's highest honor for his investigation into Atlantic investments. At noon, Claire met Michael for lunch at their favorite restaurant in Midtown. Are you ready for tomorrow? Michael asked as they sat down. As ready as I can be, Claire replied. Testifying before Congress isn't exactly something I ever imagined doing. You'll be great. Just tell your story like you told me that first day in the coffee shop. That feels like a lifetime ago, Claire said. In many ways, it was, Michael agreed. Have you heard about Robert's sentencing date? Claire nodded. Next Thursday. The U.S. attorney called to ask if I want to give a victim impact statement. Will you? Yes. I think it's important for the judge to understand this wasn't just about financial crimes. It was about abuse of power. After lunch, Claire returned to her office for a video conference with Jennifer Martinez, now the permanent CEO of Atlantic Investments. The company's stock is finally rebounding, Jennifer reported. We're up 15% since last quarter. David Chen's new security systems have impressed the regulators and most importantly, client trust is returning. That's wonderful news, Claire said. How is the ethics committee working out? Very well. Actually, we've been implementing your Workplace Dignity Foundation guidelines throughout the company. David has been a huge advocate. Later that afternoon, Claire visited the small but growing offices of the Workplace Dignity Foundation, which she had established with some of her new salary and a grant from a major philanthropist. The foundation provided resources for employees facing workplace abuse and created safe channels for whistleblowers in the financial industry. "We received 27 calls on the hotline this week," reported Sophia, the foundation's director, "and 5 new companies have signed our corporate pledge." "Any progress with Senator Martinez's office about the new whistleblower protection bill?" Claire asked. "Yes, they want you to testify at the next hearing, after your congressional appearance tomorrow." The next morning, Claire sat before the Congressional Committee on Financial Services in Washington, D.C. Television cameras broadcast her testimony live. "Ms. Williams," Congresswoman Taylor began, "you worked as executive assistant to Robert Johnson for 5 years before discovering his fraudulent activities. Can you tell the committee how you discovered this fraud and what actions you took?" Claire leaned toward the microphone. "I discovered the fraud accidentally while searching for a file Mr. Johnson had requested. I found documents showing he had created fake investment accounts, committed tax fraud, and stolen millions from client funds." "And what did you do with this information?" the Congresswoman asked. "At first I was afraid. I needed my job to pay for my mother's medical treatments, but I knew I had to act. Over several months, I gathered evidence, eventually working with journalist Michael Torres and FBI Financial Crimes Division. For 2 hours, Claire answered questions about Robert's crimes, the culture at Atlantic Investments, and the need for stronger protections for whistleblowers. "Ms. Williams," Congressman Davis said near the end of the hearing, "what would you say to others who might find themselves in your position, aware of wrongdoing but afraid to come forward?" Claire thought carefully before answering. "I would tell them that speaking the truth is difficult and sometimes dangerous. But staying silent has costs too, not just for society but for your own sense of self. Every person must make their own decision based on their circumstances, but they should know that there are resources to help them." She gestured to the committee. "And there are laws that should protect them, though those laws need strengthening." 1 week later, Claire sat in a federal courtroom for Robert Johnson's sentencing hearing. The trial had lasted 3 weeks, with overwhelming evidence leading to guilty verdicts on 22 of 27 counts. When the judge invited victim impact statements, Claire was the first to approach the podium. "Your Honor, this case was never just about financial crimes," she began, her voice steady. "It was about the abuse of power and how that abuse affects real people. For 5 years, I endured daily humiliation and verbal abuse from Robert Johnson. He created a workplace built on fear. He used his position to intimidate, to silence, and eventually to steal." Claire looked directly at Robert, who sat at the defense table in an expensive suit. "Beyond the financial damage he caused to clients, Robert Johnson damaged the spirits of those who worked for him. He made us question our worth, our competence, and our right to be treated with basic dignity. When he realized his crimes might be discovered, he prepared to frame me, to destroy my life to save his own." After all victim statements, the judge addressed the courtroom. "Robert Johnson, you have been found guilty of multiple counts of financial fraud, money laundering, and embezzlement. These crimes were not committed in a moment of weakness, but were calculated over years. You abused the trust of your clients and your employees." The judge looked sternly at Robert. "I sentence you to 18 years in federal prison. Your crime was not just stealing money, but stealing dignity from those who worked for you." As federal marshals led Robert away, he didn't look at Claire. 3 months later, Claire returned to the Grand Hyatt, New York, the same hotel where Robert had been arrested. This time, she was there to receive an award for ethical leadership from the National Business Ethics Association. As she approached the podium to accept the award, she saw many familiar faces in the audience: Michael Torres, David Chen, Jennifer Martinez, Agent Peterson, and her mother, sitting proudly in the front row. "When I was a little girl growing up in Queens," Claire began, "my mother taught me that integrity matters more than success. For a while, I forgot that lesson. I allowed myself to become part of a system that valued profit over people." She held up her award. This recognition isn't really for me. It's for every person who has ever faced a difficult choice between what's easy and what's right. It's for those who speak truth, even when their voice shakes with fear. The next morning, Claire met with a young woman named Rachel in her office. Rachel worked at a large investment bank and had called the Workplace Dignity Foundation hotline about her abusive boss. "I don't know what to do," Rachel said, her hands twisting nervously in her lap. "He humiliates me in front of clients. He takes credit for my work. When I tried to talk to HR, they said I should be more resilient. But I need this job." Claire recognized the fear and uncertainty in Rachel's eyes, the same emotions she had felt not so long ago. "Rachel, what's happening to you isn't your fault," Claire said gently, "and you're not alone. Let me tell you about your options and the resources available to you." As Claire outlined the steps Rachel could take, she saw a small spark of hope appear in the young woman's eyes. It was the same spark that had grown in Claire herself, the realization that no one should have to choose between dignity and security. Later that day, Claire walked through Central Park on her way to a foundation meeting. The autumn leaves crunched under her feet as she stopped to help a stranger who had dropped a stack of papers in the wind. As Claire gathered the scattered documents, she noticed the company logo on them, the same investment firm where Robert had hidden his largest offshore account. The work wasn't finished, she realized. One battle had been won, but the fight for workplace dignity and corporate accountability continued. With renewed purpose, Claire handed the papers back to the grateful stranger and continued on her way, ready for whatever challenges came next. If you enjoyed today's video, I'm sure you'll love the next one. Don't waste time. Just click on the screen.